What did you think when you're like, "Oh, look, Vegas and Krishna have a podcast together, and they're calling it the Wonderboys."
These fools ain't got nothing else to do.
Welcome to the Wonderboys podcast. I'm Krishna Andavolu, and this is
Vegas Tunnel. Hello.
hello. We're here again, and we're talking to each other.
Welcome to Christian's House.
It's nice to get together. It's nice when all the tech works. It's nice when we can just talk.
Can I tell you something that I've noticed?
Yeah,
This is Pavlovian.
let's hear it.
Every Tuesday night, I feel like, oh, I'm excited to go record with Krishna. And I feel like, oh, maybe I want to talk about this thing.
Hmm.
Maybe I want to talk about that thing, you know? It's
Yeah.
good.
Well, what did you want to talk about today?
Um, well, first of all, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is that we're both wearing shorts.
It's hot,
It's so hot.
truly.
We are recording this in mid-June.
Hmm.
Yeah. We're both wearing, how do you feel on your knees, Krishna?
Like the way that they feel or the way they look.
Look, let's go with look.
I think they look great.
They did look great.
And I think that they're starting to be, like a mid 40-year-old's knees. They hurt a little bit. I run a lot.
Yeah.
So I do a lot to actually keep my knees from hurting, a lot of stretching.
Do you feel good in shorts?
I don't really feel like there is an option when it's this hot outside. I
Yeah.
don't want to wear pants.
I have a very strict rule. I don't know if you have any. We're getting into this strict clothing rules.
Okay.
No, for me, it's no shorts or sandals on the island of Manhattan.
Oh, that's nice because it's a dressy occasion when you go to
Yeah.
Manhattan. Manhattan is a place for good manners and fashion.
Business cash at best.
Mm-hmm. At
Yeah.
worst.
At worst.
Yeah.
Well, there's an exception, and it's this month because it's Pride Month.
Mhm.
And my favorite thing to do Pride Month, we should do it because my favorite day on the big march, we always end up down by Washington Square Park, where everyone else goes, and just going swimming in the fountain
Oh,
is so good.
I've never done that. That
Oh
sounds
my
really
God.
fun.
Come away basically vaccinated for all possible illnesses. You just feel great. It's amazing. It's wonderful.
Well, we have a special guest today.
Yes, tell us about your guest.
Our guest is Alzo Slade, beloved former correspondent at Vice News, fantastic human being, new father, Los Angeles resident, a person who I hold dearly in my heart, who I barely ever get to see.
He's just, yeah, he's incredible.
Mhm.
I was like with you. I think we mentioned it when because we have cards on the table. We've already talked to him
We have.
as we speak right now.
Why would you give that away?
Because I want to part the kimono a little bit.
Interesting.
And we talked about giving the audience, hi Lyle, a bit of a parasocial relationship with us. So I really want them to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah, that's right.
And this sausage is being made poorly.
Well, in
sometimes.
reverse, kind of. We talked to him first, and now we're doing our little intro because we've got to prepare everyone for the conversation that's about to happen.
We talk about how to deal with everything that's going on in the world.
It gets deep.
It gets pretty deep. We touch on some news. So like I said, this is recorded in mid-June, around the time when there's a lot of protests happening in Los Angeles and elsewhere. So we touch on that as well. He's just a fountain of wisdom and good vibes.
Yeah, he runs at a slightly different RPM rate than I do, and maybe you do, and we
Yeah.
do when we talk to each other. So it takes us a minute to kind of get to his vibrational frequency. But when we do, I think thought about some things I haven't thought about in a long time.
Because when people talk to me or when I'm expected to answer, I jump right in because I think it makes me look stupid to think about it. But he's the exact opposite. He takes a moment, he pauses.
Hmm.
It's really nice.
And we're gonna try something new with him too, right, Vegas? Can you talk about?
Oh yeah, we decided to try a new gambit for this podcast, which is that every guest, and I guess you and I as well, every time we record or meet, we have to come up with something wonderful,
Yes.
big or small.
So it's sort of like a tell me something wonderful.
Tell me something wonderful. Do you have something wonderful?
Yeah, mangoes.
I had the best mango this weekend.
Did you really?
Yeah.
The reason I was talking about mangoes is because we're kind of on the tail end of mango season in the global south. And there is this WhatsApp group that I'm on that it's a micro importer of Pakistani mangoes. And so he comes in with shipments every few weeks and you kind of sign up for it and you go meet him either at the PC Richards and Sons near the Barclays Center or down on Flatbush, further closer to Marine Park. It's a really cool thing that this guy, Brendan Kennedy, we used to work with, tipped me off to.
Oh yeah.
And so you can get all these varietals of mangoes that otherwise you wouldn't really get in American grocery stores. And they are just so complex and different, and deep. And it's really fun. And then there's another place in New Jersey, closer to where my parents live, a Hindu temple that just sort of opened up. And one time we were there, and there's another kind of like micro importer of mangoes, and these are from India, and they're different South Indian varieties of mangoes. And mangoes, they're just so delicious.
Mm. I am impressed that you know what fruits are in season at like any given, because to me that's just like what is in store is what's in store.
Generally speaking, I don't, but with this I do because of the WhatsApp group and because every year I'm like, oh, I got to order those mangoes.
Mm.
And I usually fail to, and they're pretty expensive, frankly. But they really do make a difference in a person's life.
Have you ever tried to go to Trader Joe's and buying halloumi?
Like the cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to Trader Joe's. I haven't tried to buy halloumi.
So anywhere, pretty much anywhere you can buy halloumi cheese, right? It's not.
How do you say it like that? Halloumi.
Do I say it weird? Halloumi?
You give it a little pause in between. All right, then keep going.
Okay, so you can get halloumi cheese from pretty much anywhere, right? But if you go to Trader Joe's, 9 times out of 10 they'll say, no, it's not in season.
What?
I know.
How can a cheese be in season? The whole idea of a cheese is to preserve. Is it not?
I feel like they're trying to gatekeep the halloumi.
I mean, I guess they are.
They just like don't have it. Like they just fucking forgot to order it.
Is it very good? I mean, halloumi's
I have
halloumi.
never
Come
bought
on.
it from there, but I always like want it now. I desperately want Trader Joe's
So
halloumi.
my wonderful thing is mangoes during mango season. Here's another memory I'm going to share with you about mangoes during mango season. Last time I was in India, I was at my dad's older brother's house. And in India, there's such a surfeit of mangoes during mango season. There's just so many of them.
Mm.
So one thing you do is you make pickles out of them, like a preserve, but a spicy preserve.
Is that a chutney?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a chutney. I would call it a pickle.
Okay.
A chutney is more like jammy, I think, than this. You could call it a chutney. This is maybe potato. I have no idea what to call it
Mm.
in English. But it is raw mango. So the mango not quite ripened. You cut it up and you douse it with salt and with chili powder, like massive amounts of chili powder and fenugreek. Stir it up, you leave it in a cool, dark place, and it becomes this like, incredible condiment. And so that's, when you go to India during mango season, as I was there last, it's just like it's like, I guess, tomato harvest in Italy in late August. It's just this festival of people doing shit with mangoes. It's so fun.
That's amazing. That is wonderful. Yeah.
Just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
fruit, so that's kind of a cheat, but
There's nothing better than fruit. My wonderful thing
there's
is
a better thing that you discovered something better yesterday than fruit. We can talk about that later.
Wait, what was that?
At the baseball game, you're telling me about.
Oh my
You
God.
can't talk about.
No. Highly
We're not going to talk about
illegal. I come in here today. I was late today
that.
because of traffic.
Oh God.
And what I really enjoyed about I was losing my mind. So it wasn't wonderful at the time, but it was all construction
This is
happening.
your wonder.
Yeah, I think so.
Or let me
I
set
think
you. Let me
so.
set you up.
Okay.
Tell me something wonderful.
Today I was driving here. It took me an hour and a half to drive from my house, which should be 10 minutes up this. But there was so much traffic, so much construction. People were losing their minds. And then people just kind of like gave up. People just left their cars, Mad Max style.
Wow.
There was like a guy who just like left a school bus in the middle of the road. And I like the sense that we're so close to just total upheaval.
Yeah.
I really like that us humans, we still like we're so civilized, but then the second there's construction, we're just like, fuck it, I'm going home. And I think that's great.
It's sort of like an everybody hurts situation, like that REM video.
Exactly.
People getting on top of their cars.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of sort of. So you're finding wonder in that the skein of civilization atop that we live, that is atop sort of the nasty Brutus and
The
short
thin veneer of
thinnest
society.
of
Yeah.
of layers of
Because
civilization.
that's what
You
I like.
that. You
I like that. I like that in my work too. And that's
Mm.
like that goes a little bit to I think our project, which
Okay.
is everything is so polished and dull, but not really.
Yeah.
Like people are buck wild out there, and it's a magical, weird world full of like insanity and people losing their shit.
That is a really nice way of making lemonade out of lemons.
I was so angry in the car though.
Well, I was here setting our camera setup up, being like, "Where is this guy?"
Did you do behind the scenes shots?
I did.
'Cause it looks great.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so let's go to our guest. Before we go to our guest, this is us again, hat in fucking hand.
Yes.
Like and subscribe. Like a couple of you did.
Really?
Well, it might be just like you and your mom or something. But
Yeah. Well, my mom said she wouldn't listen.
if you see this on YouTube, and I think we're gonna make a push for YouTube.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Just hit the button.
Uh huh.
Spotify is the same. Like and subscribe. Instagram,
Comment.
dude,
Just
comment.
leave a comment, even if it's just a letter. Just leave a comment. Maybe share it with someone.
Yeah,
I think the idea is that you just need to give it a little push
yeah.
into the algorithmic churn, and then it'll show up in people's related content. I
We
think there was one person who's like, "The algo served this to me, and I love it. I love these guys."
So it doesn't matter what the comment is. Like, it could be hate mail, it could
Mhm.
be praise.
Shout out to that guy who commented. I'll get your name, and I will give it to you for real. We
Well,
appreciate
high
it.
five. Okay, so on to our guest,
Alzo Slade.
Alzo Slade.
All right, Alzo Slade, it's so great to see you. It's been a really long time. We used to be very close physically. We sat next to each
Very
other for
close.
years. Now
Yes.
we're across the country.
Yeah, about 2,800 miles or so.
Yep, Los Angeles that's where you are.
That's where I am. Yes. Hmm.
But emotionally close. This is a big deal for me because now I've been excited to just do this with Krishna because he's like capital K Krishna advice. But now I'm here also with you. So I'm here with the two biggest, not physically, but spiritually, correspondence advice.
You
a
think
big
Trish
deal.
and I are the biggest spiritual correspondents?
Well, you guys were just the people that we looked up to.
Did you know this, Krishna? I didn't know this.
Fuck off. You both knew
Listen,
this.
he's been telling me about the esteem that he held me in during those years, and I've been telling him about the lesser esteem that I held him in those years.
There's still some esteem.
There's still some
Hey,
esteem.
Vegas, how long were you at Vice?
I was advised for like 4 years, I think. But I
Really?
came in during the pandemic and like there was no vibes there, right? Like it was just kind of me sitting alone in the office.
You were there for 4 years?
And the party was kind of over. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, the shit was taking on water then for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we gave you some homework.
Okay.
You don't remember the text I sent you?
Yeah, but that was just a statement. That wasn't a question. Like, hey,
Yes.
I
Okay,
wasn't
well,
sure. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to turn my paper in right now or read it aloud,
do you not have it laminated in a folder?
in my Trapper Keeper notebook.
Yeah, exactly. Krishna, I told Alzo to tell us something wonderful.
All right, Alzo.
Yeah, I
Tell us
mean,
something wonderful.
it's kind of difficult to identify something wonderful in these days and times that we're living in. But I recently found some money in my Venmo account that I didn't know was there.
That's hilarious that you bring that up. We've been talking about that. Every time we do one of these, we go to this cafe and have a burrito afterwards, and
Yeah.
generally I'll pay and Vegas will Venmo me. And he literally says the same thing. He loves finding a little bit of money in your Venmo account. It's like free cash.
Yes. Yeah, because you never account for it. You never look at it.
Oh shit. Okay, I might destroy this episode right now.
How?
I don't think you have that much power.
The first time we like met face to face, me and you and Lyle went out for drinks because you were gonna sort of like explain to me how corresponding worked. And we went to a bar and I bought 2 beers and you were like, I'll Venmo you.
Did you Venmo him?
I don't remember this.
One of us wicked does.
Wait, I don't drink. Well, I don't drink beer, so you would not have bought me a beer.
Fuck.
He got you there.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, you can
Right, so
you can keep the Venmo money.
Let's go back to the wonder, though.
Yeah, let's keep
No. I
vibe
just been
good
accused.
here.
I just been accused of not paying my debt.
True, it's true.
Yo,
You know what? Maybe
hey,
it's your fault for bringing up money, though. You know what I mean?
Hey,
We talk
no,
about money,
no,
people
no.
get a little tight.
Them there is fighting words.
I'm glad I'm all the way on the other coast then.
Yeah, because I heard you guys first podcast, and it seems like neither one of you guys know how to fight.
And you did the wrestling in Dagestan episode, so you're wicked good at fighting.
I'm not wicked good, but I don't walk around in the streets thinking I could beat somebody up. But if somebody tests me, I'm not going to be an easy win. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. You also did the basic training, right? Like there was a episode or a story you did about how the military was lessening the requirements for basic training.
It wasn't lessening; they were just
wasn't
changing them.
Just changing them. Okay.
And you
Yeah,
also
matter of
did the
fact-
episode on black militias. You are a dangerous person to be around. Like you're like a highly trained individual.
I'm a very nice individual to be.
That's
You know
true.
what? The thing is, when you learn how to fight, the more you don't want to fight.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
Well, so the larger conversation we're having around fighting is sort of thematically related to how people talk, which is to say, I think we find ourselves in a day and age where all interactions are kind of a fight, are kind of a debate. There's like very little middle ground that people find, even the smallest of conversations. And it's something that I find really unfortunate and it bums me out. Do you agree with that? Is that a weird thesis to make?
Um, Let me think about it for a minute. I think the way I grew up, there's some merit to your point, but in a different context. Because the way I grew up, when you with your homies, you just roast each other, and that's how you show love. So in that respect, it is somewhat of a, you know, debate slash argument, but it's just around who has the, you know, the deepest or most sharpest roast, you know,
Mm.
because it's like if I see, you know, Krishna, like he just talked about you guys getting a burrito. As soon as he talked about getting a burrito, I thought to say Krishna's probably still eating a burrito because he takes forever to eat his food.
Yes.
And I remember sitting next to him, and it would be noon, and by 5 o'clock, half of the burritos sitting there smelling up our desk still.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
so
I always ate like half of it and then picked at it for the next couple hours.
You do that
for
with
the
our
next couple
burritos.
hours.
It's true.
So I would be like, "Hey, Krishna, why are you always starting the burrito and never finishing it?" And so in that respect, like I'm starting, you know, a conversation with a tone of debate or contention,
Mhm.
but it's endearing though.
That's right. And we know
So
each
I don't
other
know if
very
I
well.
don't know if I answered your question.
But
No, you did, and I'd like to let me just pick up on it for a second because I think the, underlying condition for roasting each other is that we share something in common, which is like a affection for each other, right? And you and your friends growing up, an affection for each other, or at least
Yeah,
background of being together.
yeah.
What I'm talking about is like when people don't share that affection or that shared reality or that shared understanding of their mutual humanity, then like so many interactions just become
contentious. Yeah.
fights.
I
Well,
appreciate where you come from, Alzo, because when Krishna asked you this question a couple of minutes ago, like the first thing you said was like, "Let me take a minute to think about it," right? And you always had this vibe. Remember when we had our weekly team meetings? It would always be like, "Let's do the Alzo question," where you would always do this like big ass esoteric philosophical question that would always have us thinking, which was nice because it was a bit of a pause. Um, because I think I like to come out of the gate pretty hard, which I can track back to some sort of insecurity. But you have like a more solidness to yourself so you give yourself that moment to think.
uh, yeah, because I think all of us on this podcast right now having been correspondents, um, you like to think that your default is to put yourself in the shoes of the other person, you know. And so when Krishna asked me that question, I'm thinking about what context is he asking it in? Like from what perspective is he asking the question before I put myself in front of it and think about what that question means to me, even though I answered it in the way that and what it means to me.
So when you were, I just have a quick question sort of on that. When you were looking at stories or when you were reporting stories, how much of what you were doing was driven by a sense of curiosity? Like when you're interviewing people, are you quite
It,
happy to show that you don't really know what you're talking about, but you're curious to find out?
every story that I've ever done was rooted in curiosity. The only reason I took the job at Vice, because I didn't come from journalism. I was an adjunct philosophy professor and a stand-up comic who was just curious about the world. And so when I took the gig at Vice, I was like, oh, you guys are gonna pay me to go around the world and the country to ask questions and to learn from other people. that sounds like a good deal to me. And so when I would sit down with people, it could be, anyone from like, the far right or someone who seemingly I would disagree with. I'm like, all right, like, I would assume that the reason that they believe what they believe and think the way they think has some merit or some foundation and reason. And so I would make an attempt to try to understand why they think the way they think and believe what they believe, and the assumption that I am missing something.
There's a practice in social work that I know about through my wife's work where it's called alternate universe thinking,
Mhm.
which is to say, if someone says something and believes something that seems like completely out of bounds to you, it probably is rational to them, but they
Right.
live in like a different mental universe that you don't.
Right.
And it's your job when you're trying to help them or talk to them or whatever to try to inhabit that universe for a second too,
Exactly.
to try to understand the rules
Yeah.
and understand why
Yeah.
they're thinking the way they're thinking.
Yeah.
To me,
And
there's
I
like a
found that
tension there. Go on. Sorry, Alzo.
no, I found that to be very fruitful because the perfect conversation to me is with someone who is smart that I disagree with. Because it's like, oh man, like I exist in my own bubble 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the way that I think, you know, I'm right in my perspective and my outlook on life. And then I meet somebody who has a different outlook on life that I may disagree with, but they're smart and they've thought through their outlook in the same way that I thought through mine. And so I'm anxious to hear their process of how they got to where they got in their thoughts and their outlook. And God forbid I learn something, you know. And if I learn something that contradicts what I thought to be truth from my worldview, hopefully I have the courage to accept that.
Mm. To me, there's started to become like a slight frustration in the way that we used to work because ideally, I think it should be the way you're saying that you're curious about something, then you go out into the world to explore it. And I think also that's what you and I would dream of doing with this thing. But the way that the media is structured now, I feel like you need to know so much of the story so you can pitch it. So you can pitch it to your superiors, your supervisor, to be like, this is what's going to happen. And that was always, to me, frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
why do we go out if we have these preset ideas of what's gonna happen already, you know?
Yeah, when I was making the Weedakit series previous to the news stuff, it was a different genre because it's like documentary television rather than news TV. And we always used to say that we wrote the story 3 times. Like, we wrote it in pre-production to make sure that we had a story. Like, we would go out and we'd come back with something in the can that would work. Then while we're in the field, we write the story again because we learn new stuff
Mm.
when we actually go to the places that the people we talk to on the phone live in and, do the real thing. And then we write the story a third time in post. But what all that takes is time. And we used to have like 11, 12 weeks of edit. And so that's where you're able to do what you're both talking about, where it's like it looks like we're out there actually being curious because we are. And we're able to sort of merge those two stories together, what we thought the story was going to be with what we found the story to be. And I think what in the model that we were churning when we were churning, it was too quick for that.
Well, I think yeah, I agree, but I don't necessarily think it was too quick all the time
Okay.
because like the way I would look at it is kind of parallel to what you're saying, Krishna, just in a different words. Because I always looked at the pitch as a thesis, and like so you gather all this information and you have this idea of what this story is, and then you go out there and you test the thesis.
Hmm.
And sometimes out there when you're doing research in the field real time, you recognize that what your thesis was is not what it is. And you have to make an adjustment. And I think the maybe sometimes the friction was that you get back, you know, back to the office with all your footage and you tell the execs, hey, this is what we thought it was going to be before we went. And that's what they bought. And then we come back with something that they didn't buy. And so now we got to be like, hey, but this is what it is. So we can't create what you bought in post. We have to create what was out there, what we brought back,
What you're dealing with, your work is different now. You're doing more stand-up comedy than the journalism you did at Vice. You're doing NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. How is that for you to deal with current events through the prism of comedy?
Yeah, I'm not doing as much stand-up as I was before Vice. I'm mainly doing yeah, but wait, I'll be a panelist, maybe I guest host when Peter's not there. And so when I'm in the writer's room with Wait, when I get a chance to host or take the spot of the judge, Bill's spot, it's not easy.
Hmm.
It's not easy because, Trump dominates the headlines and people grow fatigued with that, with the Trump jokes. And so you'll find that with Wait, they do a fantastic job of finding um obscure news
Mm.
and using that to kind of balance the negative or positive effect, whichever side you're on, of what's happening in America right now.
It's a tricky thing to deal with, isn't it? Because I think when me and Krishna first started this, I think there was a tendency to our thing to just sort of bury our heads in the sand. Like we didn't want to deal with Trump or the world or all the bad stuff in any way. We just like wanted to wrap ourselves in layers and layers of wonderful bubbles.
Mhm.
But then I think we're thinking now that that's not fully sustainable, but we don't really quite know how to deal with the realities of the world either, right?
Yeah, I think we wanted to find wonder in the world because we found so much of the opposite when we turn on the news, when we just talk to friends, things like that. But I think like what we're saying is that you can't just ignore the stuff that's happening out there. And I think moreover, the wonder comes from the contrast. Like the world can be a terrible spot, but it's also the place where the sun rises every day and where birds do cool stuff and
Mm.
where sometimes you find some money in your Venmo account.
Right.
Like there's the little surprises
Mm.
that maybe are kind of like the sort of delight of those local news stories that populate a lot of what does, which is
Yeah.
like as humans kind of just like going about their day, like the weird stuff us strange organisms
Mm.
do on a bizarre little planet that we live on.
Can I tell a quick bird story?
Okay, we're going birds.
I was
I feel
well,
like
the
I
wonderful
feel
thing
like
about
you
birds
gonna tell it whether we say yes or not.
well, yeah, no, I like to think I listen to you, maybe. And the other day, I was in my vegetable patch
Aw,
picking strawberries,
beautiful.
right? Picking strawberries in my vegetable patch, and a little bird had flown in and it was stuck. So I picked up this little bird that was like flapping like crazy, and then I held it in my hands, and it was all silent and quiet. And then it shat all over my hands and flew away. It's lovely. What do you think of that lovely story, Alzo?
I think a white man picking strawberries, you trying to take jobs away from Mexicans.
There's none left. He kicked them all out. I've been desperately trying to find Mexicans to man my tiny little vegetable patch, but it's hard these days. Acres and acres is what I mean by my impression.
That's why the bird is the past tense of shit, shat,
Could be
Chit chat chitting.
shatted.
shitted.
Shitted.
Yeah.
I think it might just be shit.
Well, to be newsy for a minute, where you're in LA, right?
Yeah.
The lawless hellscape of liberal democratic politics tearing America down.
As certain media outlets would have you to believe.
Yeah. What's the vibe?
I mean, I was just downtown this morning. My gym is down there. Ain't nothing happening.
Really?
I mean, they have a curfew from I think 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. I think. You definitely see the remnants of what occurred over the weekend. Like
Mm.
graffiti and broken glass and things of that sort. But I'm not sure if what occurred over the weekend will continue to occur at that level that would justify the presence of what Trump has, invited into Los Angeles.
Hmm.
What are people saying who live in Los Angeles?
Well, LA is pretty huge. I think I hadn't been in the streets talking to people who are fighting the fight. I've just been having conversations with, my folks who live in LA, and what you see on the news does not mirror the reality of what's happening. Like, you would think that, you know, it's just the wild, wild west chaos down
Mhm.
here. And it's not the case. And I remember, and this is unfortunately is not surprising, because I remember when the fires were here in January at the top of the year. It was bad, to be fair. However, I remember distinctly, like, the fires, I think they started on a Tuesday night. And from Tuesday night to like Wednesday, maybe early Thursday, it was pretty bad. And you could see, like, the national news outlets, from progressive to conservative, just milking it,
Hmm.
like milking it with these, sensational headlines, which were somewhat justified, you know, on Wednesday, when we really didn't know what was going on and people's homes were being burned. But, like, they rode that thing all the way to, like, the next week, bro. And we're here in LA, and they're talking about the worst is yet to come. And there are no winds. The fires were pretty much contained to the extent that they were no longer spreading. To be fair, they were still burning hot within the confines of what the fire department was able to contain. But in terms of the worst is yet to come, bro, they were saying that days after the worst had come. And it was very clear that they were sensationalizing that event. And it's the same now.
That's funny to sensationalize something as like, I mean, those fires. Again, I wasn't in Los Angeles, but from what I saw on the news and TikTok and social media, were crazy. So even
Crazy.
even like the high watermark of like actually gigantic news,
Armageddon.
yeah, like a kind of Armageddon hitting a major American city, you're still finding that the news tends to overplay it,
I
which
mean,
is
but
wild.
if you think about it, just in a practical and monetary sense, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know fear sells, and it's like, oh my God, look what's happening down there. I can't take my eyes away. And when you can't take your eyes away from a news platform, then advertisers love that. And
Well, let me
so,
just play devil's advocate for a second, because I think that, I mean, I turned on the news when it was happening. I was like, "Oh my god, the Pacific Palisades are burning down. Let me turn on the news." And I think I was served the news. I mean, I saw images, I saw context, I saw people on the ground talking to people, um, and I don't know if I'm better off for seeing it, or like if I have a better view, context of the world as a result of it. But I was interested,
Hmm.
and I guess like what would have been the adequate way to cover that without getting to the point of sensationalism? And I
well,
think
I'm
that's
saying,
the question.
I get the point that I'm making is they sensationalized it longer than was necessary.
Mhm.
So there was a period where it was chaos,
Yep.
where people's lives were at stake, homes were burning, and that was a time in which, if you turn the cameras on, what you see is reality.
Mhm.
And so I don't think that was sensationalizing it, aside from, I don't know, Firegeddon, or, the kind of corny ass titles that they'll put, at the top of the segment. But I'm saying, to say that the worst is yet to come, to me, is explicitly trying to ride the coattails of what the worst was, in order
You're
to
doing a
keep
news
people watching.
cliffhanger.
And I think that's disingenuous.
There's a couple of words I always that peeves me in the media now. It's like it's breaking,
Sure.
and now like, everything is breaking all the time and exclusive.
Meaningless.
I remember at Vice we did an interview, and I didn't do it, but someone did an interview with Nancy Pelosi or something, right?
Mhm.
And like we milked that shit. Exclusive interview with Nancy Pelosi, and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's been interviewed before. And you know what? Like it's just it makes everything a little meaningless to me.
Yeah, I guess these are buzzwords that people are using to try to keep people from turning TV off, right? I mean,
Mm.
that's basically it. So if you're,
Uh,
you're saying that at the tail end of the fires, they were saying the worst is yet to come, when clearly that wasn't the case.
yes.
And
Mm.
the worst is yet to come is a way of keeping people tuned in,
Yes.
like because that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Should we've had you for a long time. I just want to finish with something. Every time I do interviews in Norway about everything that happened in America, people always like, "Where's the hope? Like, what should we look at for hope?" And dude, I got fucking nothing. But you've always been a soothing, sagacious presence. You just became a father. Like, where do you what do you feel good about these days?
Well, I think it is difficult to find a light at the end of the tunnel these days. But I also find some sense of solace and hope in the fact that this is this is not unprecedented. So people before us throughout history have figured out a way to push through. And so to recognize that um, that it's been done before gives me hope that we can do it again. And it's just exhausting, like I haven't lost hope in thinking that the world is about to burn to hell, but I do sometimes just get tired and want to, kick back and turn my brain off. But I think about how when I was a kid and my parents would have the news on, and I'd see like wars and rockets and people fighting and all of this stuff. And I would think to myself, it's going to be fine because the adults, they're smart and they're going to figure it out and we're taken care of.
I remember that feeling.
Yeah. And now we are the adults. And so that's so, and to think that we don't have the answers, but we do have the will to stay in the fight and figure it out. And I think as long as we have the will, and sometimes, like, let's say it's the three of us, is the collective. It's like sometimes Vegas and Krishna, y'all got the will, and I'm tired, so I'll take a break while you guys fight. And then at some point, Vegas, you got to take a break. Me and Krishna take the wheel. So I think collectively, um, that's what has to be done.
Tag team.
Yep.
So where should people find you? Where should our audience, by which we mean Lyle, find you? Lyle has become shorthand for our audience because we know for sure he's listening. We don't know
Lyle is if you're gonna have an audience, it's quality over quantity.
That's right.
And Lyle certainly meets the standard for quality for sure.
He's sitting somewhere right now listening to
Hey,
this.
Lyle.
Hey,
How's it
Lyle.
going?
Yeah, just at Alzo Slade on Instagram and what's the other one? TikTok.
I've got one last question because I want to follow up on what he was saying. I know we're going over for some time, but I'm interested. You find comfort in context, right? Which is to say, humans have gone through this before, this being periods of crisis and distress. We're also not being told, but I think what I digest is that things are getting worse more quickly, um, or that we're outside of the context that we have previously known.
Worse than what?
Unprecedented. That's the word that gets thrown around all the time. So it's quicker because information passes so quickly through social media. Its potential is more violent because people can be as violent as they want, right? You've covered extremists in that way.
I guess when you say more violent, what are we comparing it to?
I mean, if we're comparing it to like World War II, the last time there was like a massive worldwide crisis, then we're not there yet, obviously, but we just don't want to get there. So I guess like the comfort in history is not very comforting to me personally. because I don't want to get anywhere close to where those places were. And right now, it seems like we're on like a, the slope is increasing as we get closer and
Well, I guess you're looking at it and you don't want to get close to where it was. I'm looking at it from the perspective of there were people who were able to see what happened and they're like, okay, we made it through that. And so, from my perspective, we also have those tools to push through and
You know.
prevent things like that from happening because we've seen it before. But
Mhm.
when it comes to things being worse, like I don't know, I'd say it's unprecedented by way of the technological advancements that we have, right? Like we've not seen these things before, but I guess the underlying uh principles around human behavior is no different. Like someone seeks power, they seek to control, all of those things. And like the unprecedented part just comes with the tools that they have to do it. And so the same principle that allowed the folks to fight those ancient principles or those the ancient desire for someone to control and be a dictator, I think we still have that, you know. That didn't come out right, but in my head it makes sense.
It's a tough question, but we got really heady. We started fun though, if
Yeah.
we remember.
Yeah.
Eh,
Our intro is gonna have to be just super ridiculous,
Yeah.
and then we can get into some of the stuff with Alzo.
But I guess
Yeah.
also there's when it boils down to it, there's hope in the fact that we have no other recourse, dog. Like you,
Ain't nothing
you know
else.
what I'm saying? Like we're not just gonna lay down and let evil take over. And I'm not even saying like
Unless.
certain individuals or groups are evil, but if there's something that is threatening your survival, we just got to figure it out. And I'm not saying it's easy by any means, you know. I'm not
But
saying that it's exciting to think about, but the hope to me is that motherfuckers, like we resilient, dog. You know,
but the fucked up thing there, which is it's so easy for a lot of us to lay down because it's so easy for a lot of us to be like, "Oh, this isn't my fight." And, like, I'm talking about people who generally look like me. Like, there's such a like, it's so easy for the people who wish us ill to other and to separate and to make it one group against the other, right? So, I mean, I'm sure if you look at the streets of LA or anywhere else, the majority of the protesters aren't necessarily affluent white. I don't want to rag on white people, but you know what I mean? Like it is so easy for large parts of society to lay down because it's not my fight.
absolutely. I also think you know, when when the problems of the world or society or America hit people's pockets, it's a game changer.
Yep.
It's a game changer when you own a construction company in Texas and because of the ICE raids, 75% of your workforce doesn't show up. And
Yeah.
so you may be, that white redneck, CEO of a company that don't want me to date your daughter, but when it comes to the dollars, you like, look, Mexican or whoever, somebody needs to show up to work
Mm.
because I gotta feed my family, put my kids through private school and all of that. So all these ICE raids and you know, my I'm poor, white, I voted for Trump, but now I realize that my grandma is not getting Medicaid anymore. Okay, wait a minute.
Mm.
Trump, I was with you before, but this shit is not okay.
To me, the most hopeful moment that has happened this year, which is a little fucked up, is after Ben Shapiro went on his show and was like, "Look at Luigi Mangione. Look at what the lefty pieces of shit are doing to society. These guys are monsters." And then all of Ben Shapiro's right-wing fans were like, "Motherfucker, no, we all love this guy.
Hmm.
Like, this is a tune we can all dance to." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. Here's some potential." not to go out and kill a bunch of people, but like we all maybe we don't love the same things, but like we hate the same rich people.
Yeah, this is sort of comes back. I'm going to bring it all the way back to the idea of a fight, and when you can rag on each other, but you have an underlying shared reality of either affection or comedy or brotherhood or maybe class consciousness is what we're talking about in this case, which is to say, like, those are the things that I think if we can try to identify more often, then the fighting on top of it is just part of what people do. It's when the fighting is like we do have two different realities. We do have two different truth sets. We do have two different morality sets. And you don't exist to me as a person. And I think that's the shit that gets me real down.
I used to tell the Nazis that I was covering all the time, is like, you guys talk about a race war. We need a class war.
Hmm.
Like, because they would be like, oh, well, look, no one's fighting for the poor white person in Appalachia. And it's like, yeah, that's true. It sucks to be a poor white person in Appalachia. It sucks to be a poor black person in Appalachia and anywhere. It sucks to be a poor brown people. Like, this shouldn't be about race. The common thing is it sucks to be a poor person, and we need to start eating the rich ASAP.
Well, the danger in that is everyone throughout history, not everyone, but most people throughout history that um, decided to make this thing about class and not race got killed. Like the Bacon's Rebellion back in the day, the wealthy shut that shit down.
Hmm.
When Martin Luther King got assassinated, it wasn't until he did the Poor People's Campaign.
Hmm.
They didn't really fuck with Malcolm X until he came back from Mecca saying that, oh, white people are not the devils and we can work together to fight oppression. They're like, nope. Fred Hampton, he brought the rednecks, the Latinos, the black folks, the feminists, all of them together. And the wealthy were like, no, 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 no. What's his name? What's John Kennedy's brother, the attorney,
Robert F. Kennedy.
Robert F. Kennedy, yeah. Same thing.
But the difference back then was that there was still a middle class. There were still enough people in this country that were kind of chill about how things were going. And I think this is a left-wing podcast now.
Well, no, but yes, correct. There was. However, Dr. King would call them the people who like the negative peace, right? The ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that your point?
But that demographic is going away now. Like you have just less and less wealthy people who are happy with the way the system is, and more poor people are getting pissed off. And I think the elites are slowly overplaying their hands. Like they're pushing the society just further and further and further
Yeah,
and further. And
I
that's not
agree.
gonna end well. Happy days.
Well, let's all check our Venmo balances and see if we potentially have a couple extra bucks in there to throw around.
I'm getting paid for this podcast, no?
Oh, hey, another question. I know you had to go, but what did you think when you're like, oh, look, Vegas and Krishna have a podcast together and they're calling it the Wonderboys? What went through your mind?
Uh,
I'm teeing you up here.
These fools ain't got nothing else to do.
Our very dear friend, Alzo Slade. That was fun.
So nice talking to him.
What a guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time talking with him because as we said, we sat next to each other
Yeah.
at desks, and so he would do this thing where he would just be like, we'd be ticky tappy typing, pre-production meetings, blah blah blah, and then he would be like, he would ask a question, just an open ended kind of philosophical rambling question,
Mm.
and I would be like, gotta respond to that, and then we'd have like a 35-40 minute conversation about it.
It's very rare that I'm jealous of a tiny baby,
Oh yeah.
but like I kind of want him to be my dad a little bit,
Oh, that's nice.
non-sexually,
In a paternalistic kind of
in a
way.
very
Just a
paternalistic
parent.
kind
You
of
want him
way.
to be a parent.
Yeah,
Because you just know that he's probably going to be such a great dad.
yeah.
He's
What-
a great dude. We miss him. I miss him.
We miss him a lot.
He used to live pretty close to me here, and we had some times together hanging out.
I still don't fully buy what he said about him not owing me money for, I guess,
Venmo?
sodas. I still like.
Well, famously, he does not drink alcohol. He doesn't drink caffeine. He doesn't do any illicit drugs, to my knowledge. So,
I don't
he
think.
he could have gotten, a cranberry and seltzer or something.
Yeah,
Or just
I'm going to go
water.
back in my petty memory
But I mean, we
of
should.
people who wronged me.
Yeah, he's on the list apparently.
Apparently, and I don't know. Maybe he
I
doesn't
mean, if
deserve to be.
he's on the list,
Oh,
then that's
I-
going to
well,
be
on the list.
everybody.
My list is the phone book
Yeah,
of
there you
America
go.
and the world.
Okay, quick update on our Wonderboy projects, our production projects.
We got an email back from the Night Fighters.
Yes.
Is there a better thing to call them?
I think that's just what we're going to call them. Okay.
Night fights.
Night fights.
Yeah.
And they're down. I mean, we're going to try to talk to the larger nationwide organization about going to their big event in
Yeah.
later summer. You went and saw them again, just personally.
Still doing the same thing. A
Yep.
couple of them were injured because they hit hard, which is great.
Yeah. Fighting, man. All about
Fighting, man. Fighting, man. It's real. I also I went to see a documentary that our friend Karina Wong
Yes.
did, which is called I think it's called We Can Be Heroes, and it's kind of similar. It's about this camp in upstate New York that is all about LARPing.
Yeah.
And it is the most wonderful documentary I've ever seen. The way they captured the weirdness and love and characters of these beautiful, incredible kids.
Yeah.
We have no clout, but if you're watching this, and I don't think the doc is out for distribution.
It will be, I'm sure.
I hope. It's so good.
Yeah.
Karina, it was an amazing movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I couldn't go to that screening that night because of my children, I think.
Yeah.
I had some terrible
children.
issues.
So that's good.
I really am excited to see
Yeah.
it. And it looks like it has a ton of heart. And it's in capable hands. She's a wonderful filmmaker.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Okay, beyond that, we're also tinkering and noodling with some other things. We'll tell you more about it.
I have yet to go to a church to try to join the choir. That is like a homework that I have a hard time
But
doing.
where's Jesus going to go? He's just, like, it's not like there's a deadline.
Yeah, good point. Well, I mean, there is, because the end days could approach.
Imagine if he like returns next week and you're like, I was so glad.
I had a shot.
The rapture. Fucking rapture.
Don't wait.
Don't wait on Jesus.
That's right.
Or other deities.
Can you believe that Alzo's on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me? It's so amazing and hilarious to me. First, my kids actually like that program because it's just NPR is on in the weekend morning sometime. It comes on. They're like, oh, we like it. And then Alzo was on it and they know Alzo and they're like, oh my God, it's Alzo every time he's on. But there's also, I have a former colleague-ish, but maybe just man about town, a writer who I admire quite a bit, Jay Caspian Kang. And for ages, he had kind of a Twitter war against Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, as if it was like the worst program possible and somehow demonstrative of, I don't know, some kind of cultural decline that he railed against. We should have him on the podcast if he'd ever come. Fascinating character.
Oh, can I tease a thing?
Yes.
Well, we don't know when we don't know the order of our podcast. This could be episode 23 or it could be episode 6. I don't know. I don't know where we are.
No.
We need to start getting on that. But yesterday we were supposed to shoot an episode
Mm-hmm.
and we will shoot it with your friend Stefan.
Stefan, I have a hard time pronouncing his last name, which he'll forgive me for because he has a hard time pronouncing my last name. But he is man about town of New York City.
Yeah.
I call him the mayor of New York. He has a film that's coming out. It was at South by Southwest. He does a kind of nighttime talk show for, I think, some local TV channels here called Nighttime, I think, that's about to come out again. He's just the most charming, most positive, also a new father, wonderful dude. Was in a band called Caveman back when we were young men in bands. And dude rules.
So he watch me tie a fucking bow on this.
Let's hear it.
So we're going to record with him and release an episode. And if you are watching this and you hit like and subscribe, that episode with Stefan will show up on your YouTube as if by magic.
What do you mean on your YouTube? What does that even mean? Okay, well, with that, thank you for listening. We're the Wonderboys. We will be back.
I love you all. Bye-bye.
High five.